It wasn't the weather that made Atlanta hotter. Nobody anticipated the predicament that Bambi, the queen of poise, walked into. She had a sharp tongue and an even sharper eye for disrespect. She used to call the dude Lil Scrappy. The husband is currently seated across from his recently married wife, who is radiant from both the drama and her pregnancy. Fans were prepared, emotions were high, and cameras were rolling. Disrupt the internet. It wasn't a battle in the conventional sense that followed. Words, not yelling or reversing roles. Words have a profound impact. Secrets leaked out like silk, wrapping in blades. And this city wasn't just talking by night's end. It was breaking down every gaze, every tear, every breath. This goes beyond mere rumors. Every frame counts in this slow-motion cultural event. Scrappy at VH1, Love and Hip Hop Payel. LHHL, Bambi, LC. The location wasn't a club or a store. Even the supper wasn't silent. It was a location that was neutral. A stylish lounge with soft lighting, pricey water, and cameras hidden, but never. Truly visible is a favorite spot for reality TV. Everyone was aware that this was no accident. This meeting was called by someone, and while knowing it would be painful, someone else consented. Bambi was the first to arrive. She wasn't feeling like a fighter, just simple lines and a neutral color scheme. No bright patterns or dazzling gems. The type of armor you wear when you don't want the storm beneath to be seen to the other side. Anyone who has seen Bambi in ATL circles knows when her shoulders are so square, even if she walked steadily. She is preparing for influence. After a couple of minutes, Lil Scrappy entered. He exuded anxious energy, a smile that didn't stay, a hoodie half-sipped as if he wanted to be laid back but was unable to do so. The new wife arrived behind him. For weeks, she had been the subject of whispers on the internet. She wasn't a rumor. Tonight, yet some were criticizing and some were protecting. She arrived in heels with a composed assurance that seemed practiced but genuine. Without shouting, the air constricted instantly. "Hey," Scrappy replied quietly and resolutely, feeling the water's warmth like a guy sticking his toe into hot water. Bambi took a while to respond. "We're actually doing this here," she said after taking a sip of water and setting the glass down. Her voice was precise, flat, and neither caustic nor warm. Scrappy was about to speak when the new wife spoke. "We intended to meet in a public setting. Neutral. No pressure, no sides, simply sincerity." In a library, the word honesty struck like a bullet. No one moved for a moment. There was no zooming from the cameras. They leaned closer. Bambi reclined, in her seat. "Sincerity from all of you? That's new now." Scrappy winced. Not very dramatic, only a micro-expression. The sort that claims that every syllable is slapped hard. The discussion began in a courteous or at least calculated manner. Minor. Admissions of previous injuries. Cautious wording about little gestures of respect and co-parenting going ahead. But you could sense it beneath it all. The fuck? It was breaking. Let's not pretend that this was not painful. "At last," Bambi said, while bending forward and resting her elbows on the table. "While my life was still in ruins, you created a brand. New one. All right, we're sitting here now as if it were brunch." With a sharp sigh, Scrappy looked up and down, searching for a safe word that was non-existent. Bam. That wasn't the case. It simply occurred. I'm not attempting to be disrespectful. Did it already. She made a clean, crisp cut. Authority only. No increase in volume. The shift follows. The moment that caused an on-camera earthquake out of a heated discussion. A hand was put on her stomach by the new wife. Quiet, non-dramatic, non-performative, similar to a reflex. It was captured on camera. Bambi's gaze fell upon it. "What is that?" Bambi narrowed her brows and asked. The new wife gave Scrappy a quick look, then back to Bambi, and then quietly, as though she wasn't sure whether saying it would begin a fire or put it out. Silence is what we anticipate. Not uneasy quiet. Film-based quiet. The sort where the sound of a heart beating may reverberate up the walls and through the floor. Bambi didn't weep. Not quite yet. She didn't yell. After blinking once and twice, she sat back and processed a blow that no one could have anticipated. Scrappy's words came out too quickly. "This is not how we intended to drop it. It's early, I promise. We don't want to lie if we were putting everything on the table, even though it's private." Bambi extended her hand, interrupted him in the middle of a phrase like a queen stopping a gesture of court. "Don't. Simply don't. You believe you're carrying out you did the right thing, but you made things worse." The wife attempted to speak out. "My purpose is not to do you harm. All I wanted was openness." Bambi chuckled. Not a joyful chuckle. I giggle at the thought of a Yugatobi. Openness now. You demand honesty now after all the whispers and back doors. The room's vibe changed from delicate to perilous, not emotional or bodily. Decades of pride, suffering, betrayal, and loyalty might all seem to be dissolving into static. Cameras captured every movement, every tightening of the jaw, every look in the direction of the door. For example, perhaps leaving might prevent someone from saying anything they would later regret. And Bambi made a decision then and there. "Congrats, really, but don't mistake my silence for peace. This isn't over," she added, standing up, straightening her jacket, and glancing at the lady who was now carrying her ex-husband's kid. Not by any means. She left. Drinks were not tossed with a scene number. Only the loudest echo and the quietest depart. Head in hands, Scrappy remained still on his chair. Like gravity itself, the weight of 2 lives, possibly 3 now, pressed down. And phones rang out in Atlanta. Group conversations went crazy. Headlines were prepared by blogs. This was more than a simple altercation, and fans prepared to take sides. It was the first act in a conflict that no one anticipated. Bambi Y'all Scrappy, we're lovin' hip-hop at ATL. ATL drama at VH1 at Lovin' Hip-Hop PTL at a Disabish remained there for E. A while after Bambi left, eyes still on the door, fingers making invisible circles on the table as if the wood could absorb the stress, and the cameras continued to roll. Leaned back, took a sigh that sounded like it contained 10 years of remorse, and whispered, "I didn't want it to be like this." The new wife, who we'll call Jay since the blogs were already misspelling her name 1,000 times, finally found her voice. Quote, "It wasn't shaky, it wasn't rehearsed, but it wasn't careless either." "She needed to know," Jay added, not even raising his voice. "I can't stay in this city, in this circle, with your child and pretend she doesn't exist. It's not just about a baby, it's about respect. You don't understand?" Bam. Scrappy rubbed his hands together and looked at the floor. "That's not me. Don't cut her halfway. Once she feels cut, it's permanent." I sliced her repeatedly. "Then why didn't you tell her before tonight?" Jay asked him, her eyes the type that pose silent inquiries that no one wants to answer on television. There was silence once more, save for the low hum of the air conditioner in the lounge and the clicking of a bracelet as a producer anxiously twisted it, refusing to answer my calls. In the end, Scrappy said, "I don't want to pull up on her. It would have been terrible. I also considered neutral ground when you stated that you wanted to just put it out there. Don't yell. I hoped she would see we weren't attempting to make her little." Although he didn't agree, Jay nodded, more like admitting that there is a storm. She was aware of her inability to steer. "Are you still in love with her?" Unscripted, she asked Dot that question. The table was frozen by Raw. Scrappy blinked, looked, off in the distance. There was no camera to follow. "She is my children's mother." That doesn't turn off. Adores complex men. May love someone and know that you can't continue to be with MJ. Took a deep breath. Then state that aloud for the baby, for myself, and for her. Quit allowing quiet to dictate the narrative. At last, Scrappy sat up straight, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees and staring at his own image on the gleaming table. I still care about you, but we damaged the thing we were attempting to mend with the way we harmed each other. And I'm not proud, but I also can't continue to act as though I haven't moved on. The words were honest, weighty, and awkward. The room released some of its tension for the first time in hours. Jay put a hand on his shoulder and reached over. Grounding, not romantic. Then, because you're currently in bits, you need to construct something solid for the kids since this one is coming for you. Scrappy provided a half sigh, half chuckle. I feel like I've been in pieces ever since the wedding ended. When the producer eventually intervened, it was to check Poe gently, like a teacher after a brawl at school, not to direct. Would anyone like a break? Jay gave her a headshake. No, I'd rather do this on camera. No edits or cuts that give the impression that she is insane or that I am boasting. Just the facts. Staring at her, Scrappy startled. You sure? That's a lot of eyes. I'm carrying a whole person. She smiled a bit dryly. They both chuckled as they said, I think I can handle some eyes. It was the first sound of the night without a hint of anguish. Suddenly, amid the chaos, a shard of humanity emerged. Nor a solution, nor peace, but a recognition that something more than treachery now bound the three of them together. A heritage, a city, and a kid captured on film. Word was getting out back outside. After someone's sister posted the site after receiving a text from someone's cousin who works in catering, the hashtags "our crappy baby," "our Bambi deserves better," and ATL reality check. Inside the lounge were popular within an hour. Jay put a hand on her stomach once more as he leaned back. Do you believe she will ever pardon you? He will never pardon you. Scrappy took a while to respond. He simply gazed at his unopened glass of water as the moisture ran down it. Then she could forgive me, silently. At last. She will always remember. And it is the thing that will always ache. The weight of a man and a woman sitting there was captured by the slowly moving cameras, not as villains or victims, but as two individuals who had entered a narrative without the luxury of solitude, without armor, and without a map. The city would continue to speak. The blogs would continue to swirl. The supporters would continue to pick sides. But for an hour, there was nothing about followers, edits, or ratings in that room. It was only a collision of two lives, with the untidy mechanics of duty and sorrow. Wall Scrappy, Wantar Hash Bambi, Leavand Hip Hospital, Warn ATL Drama, VH1 at Leavopt Latiso Bombicium, did not immediately return home. She roamed the parking lot while the cameras watched from a distance. The phone was in her hand, and she was not reading the texts that lit up on the screen. She was given the type of room by producers that you give someone who is... They're still debating whether to cry, shout, or vanish. She let out a breath like someone extracting air from a wound as she eventually got into the back seat of a black SUV. The low comments were captured by a microphone still attached to her clothing. More often than not, she talked to herself. We keep getting caught up in the same pattern, same cuts, different faces. Scrappy and Jay were still in the lounge, but they were talking about something else. The guardrails came down without Bambi on the other side of him. The conversation had lost its composure. It was an admission. Scrappy stated in a low voice, I don't even know when we started breaking each other. As if he was speaking not into a TV show, but into a confessional booth. It could have been the continuous cameras. Perhaps we believed that more TV would restore confidence. Jay did not flinch as he listened. Both of you were fire. Even with the modifications, you could see it. Fire, however, burns. Occasionally, it destroys everything. You believed it to be secure. Scrappy gave a slow nod, eyes far away. When the streets became quieter and the music slowed, she held me down. Not all the time was I thankful. That is, the aspect that bothers me the most. And there it was. Viewers seldom get the bit about guilt. Not only the betrayal, but the remorse that lingers after the lights go out and tastes like metal in your tongue. Kami was outside now, finally picking up a phone call from a buddy who had been making fun of her. Her voice was strained but firm, as she added, "He didn't just move on. He didn't even complete my chapter before beginning a brand new one." The microphone missed the friend's words. "No," Bambi said. "I didn't weep. I'm not giving them that, not on camera, not like this, even if I wanted to." Social media was rocked by that one sentence. It was chopped, subtitled, and made into a TikTok sound by fans. Within an hour, Durst's not on camera became popular. A call to action for everybody who has ever had to endure suffering in public in order to maintain some semblance of dignity. Jay returned to the lounge and reached across once more. "This time, it's to anchor rather than to console," she said. "You're going to Coprant. This needs to be cleaned up. For the children, not just for her. It's more than simply a headline. Their family tree is it." Scrappy nodded while massaging his temples as though 1,000 choices were bearing, down on a single delicate area. "I am aware. I simply didn't want it this way. I want adult tranquility. Rather, I received a fresh conflict. It wasn't simply an emotional conflict. It has to do with logistics. Joint custody scheduling conflicts, overlapping family holidays and conflicting birthdays. Everything. Held the feel of treachery today." Now at home, Bambi relaxed in a peaceful living room while cameras captured just snippets of her expression. "It's not even about him anymore," she eventually remarked in dim light, averting her eyes from the camera. She paused, rubbing her leg, as if to drum the pain from her body, and said, "It's about how I heal from someone making me feel replaceable while I was still bleeding." That frankness struck me. I spent years with a man who couldn't even allow me the grace to pause before he began again, and now I'm expected to applaud a newborn as if I were a visitor at a play I wasn't invited to. It wasn't a meltdown or a joke. Rather, it was a mirror held up to Twitter exploded with empathy threads, including articles on the emotional toll of high-profile relationships and every difficult breakup where one person moved on like it was a sprint, while the other was still crawling. Podcasts analyzing the way reality TV exaggerates every injury until it becomes biblical. In the meantime, producers were subtly thrilled, not due to the anguish, but because the sincerity was explosive. Heartbreak that seems to be flowing through the screen cannot be scripted. Drama can. Finally, Scrappy stepped out of the lounge. "Hi, hoodie up." Like vultures swarming a confession booth, paparazzi took pictures. By midnight, everyone in Atlanta and online had a side, and the tale had officially transitioned from a terrible breakup to a cultural event after one photo showed him wiping his face with his sleeve dot. Bambi Confronts Lil Scrappy. Love and Hop ATL. Reality. Unfiltered at VH1 at Love and Dip a Paddle at Addis Dub Bomb at Realissi. The following morning, the air in Atlanta was not only humid, but also heavy with rumors. Radio shows began airing snippets of the altercation that were played back like breaking news, and Hollywood opened tiny blogs that reported on the conflict. Huge networks. The issue that everyone had was, how can a family bounce back when the next chapter ends with a pregnancy announcement? The business thrives on controversy like beets, and when Scrappy woke up, he found scores of missed calls from individuals he hadn't heard from in months, along with 3 missed calls from his mother and 1 from his manager, sit near enough to claim to have witnessed it live. Everyone wants a piece, a quote, or a response. At the Frost Bistro. A woman read the tale aloud to her buddy and murmured, "Bam, That's 2 tables over from regulars who'd been eating grits there since before Love and Hip Hop ATL even existed. Better deserved. However, that infant is not unrelated to the situation. That idea reverberated throughout ages. The public's indignation was strong, but so was a peculiar protective instinct for the unborn child, a communal reminder that a real being was about to be born somewhere under hashtags and retweets. Eve gazed at her phone as if it were a ticking clock, while Jay was still getting used to the abrupt change from intimate connection to headline. In a discreet off-camera interview, she informed a producer, "I don't want my baby to be a story line. I only wanted peace, but peace doesn't sell." Scrappy attempted to repair the damage, but it still found its way into a leaked audio tape. Even though it seemed like a horrible idea to do a live broadcast later that day, management persuaded him to do it, so he got on with his voice quiet and his hood up. "I don't have any excuses. I love my children, all of them, and that won't change. What you saw was honest, but it wasn't the complete picture. What irritates me is that when actual lives are at stake, everyone turns this into a spectacle." The responses were explosive, with some applauding his candor and others criticizing him for being more concerned with appearances than with injuries. One remark said, "Shared over 12,000 times, as if he wasn't the one who started the fire." Bambi's power was only increased